Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we bring you one of the most emotional and heartbreaking stories in the history of Little People, Big World. For years, fans admired Zach and Tori Roloff's marriage as a symbol of strength, love, and family. But on August 30, 2025, everything changed. After months of rising tension and painful family disputes, Zach and Tori officially ended their marriage. Tori Roloff's children cried out, "Mom, please don't leave us." All they wanted was for their mother to stay by their side. But Tori did not listen to their pleas, ignoring her children's tears and desperate requests. Finally, Tori Roloff married her secret boyfriend David, because David agreed to pay off Tori Roloff's secret $850,000 debt. Tori Roloff decided to marry him, and Tori divorced Zach Roloff. Tori Roloff has been secretly in a romantic relationship with David for the past 1 year. Tonight, we'll uncover every detail of this shocking love story, from the secret romance to the emotional courtroom battles, from the heartbreak of Zach and the cries of the children, to the dramatic wedding that stunned fans around the world. Stay with us until the very end, because this is not just a divorce. It's a story of betrayal, hidden struggles, financial secrets, and the pursuit of a new life. Let's dive right in. When Zach and Tori first met, fans immediately saw something special. Tori wasn't just another face in Zach's life. She was someone who truly understood him. Their love story felt like a fairy tale, one that stood against the odds. Despite the challenges of fame, family dynamics, and public life, they married in 2015, surrounded by love and hope. Together, they welcomed 3 beautiful children into the world: Jackson, Lila, and Josia. Their home was filled with laughter, warmth, and countless precious moments. Viewers of Little People, Big World adored their chemistry. Zach, with his steady and caring personality, and Tori, with her warmth and devotion, became a favorite couple on the show. Fans believed their bond was unshakable. But behind the perfect Instagram photos and heartwarming family clips, struggles were brewing. The pressures of raising children, balancing careers, and dealing with Zach's ongoing disputes over Roloff farms placed increasing strain on their marriage. Slowly, cracks began to show. And while Zach fought to keep the family together, Tori carried a heavy burden, one she had never fully revealed to the world. A burden that would soon drag their entire marriage into the shadows. On the outside, Tori Roloff's life looked perfect. She was a devoted wife, a loving mother, and a well-known personality from Little People, Big World. Fans saw her smiling on Instagram, enjoying time with her kids, and standing by Zach's side through farm disputes and family drama. But behind those smiles was a secret that she carried alone. Tori had quietly fallen into debt, a staggering $850,000. The truth is complicated. Some sources say the debt began as small credit card bills, medical expenses, and home renovations. Others claim Tori had made risky investments, hoping to secure a better future for her children. There were whispers of business ventures that failed, and even speculation about personal loans she couldn't repay. But whatever the origin, one fact became clear. Tori was drowning in financial pressure. She couldn't bring herself to tell Zach. Why? Because Zach was already burdened by the never-ending conflict over Roloff farms. He was fighting with his father, Matt, about ownership and legacy. The last thing Tori wanted was to add another mountain to his shoulders. So she stayed silent. Every day, she smiled in front of the cameras while hiding the storm inside her heart. Every night, she lay awake, terrified of what would happen if the truth came out. It was during this time that cracks between Zach and Tori widened. Zach, exhausted by family disputes and show commitments, didn't notice the hidden weight his wife was carrying. He thought Tori was simply stressed by motherhood. He assumed her distant looks were from fatigue, not from the crushing anxiety of unpaid debts. But the truth was far darker. In her isolation, Tori found herself vulnerable, longing for comfort, for someone who would listen without judgment. And that's when David entered her life. David wasn't a stranger. He had been around quietly, a family acquaintance who gradually became closer to Tori. Unlike Zach, who was consumed by farm disputes, David had time. He had patience, and most of all, he had money. At first, their conversations were harmless. Friendly texts, casual meetups, someone to vent to when Zach was too busy or too tired. But soon, those conversations turned deeper, more intimate. David made one thing clear. "You don't have to go through this alone, Tori." He listened when she confessed her secret debt. He didn't criticize her choices. He didn't make her feel guilty. Instead, he offered something Zach never did, a way out. David promised he would cover her $850,000 debt. It was the kind of lifeline Tori had been praying for. To her, David wasn't just a friend anymore. He was her rescuer. But that promise came with an unspoken price. The more she leaned on David, the further she drifted away from Zach. And soon, what started as emotional comfort turned into something far more dangerous, a secret romance. For nearly a year, Tori carried on this hidden relationship. She smiled at family dinners, posted photos with Zach, and maintained the image of a happy wife, while secretly building a life with another man. And deep down, she knew that one day, the truth would come out. For months, Tori Roloff lived a double life. To the world, she was still Zach's wife. She played her role perfectly, attending family gatherings, posting cheerful pictures, and filming scenes for Little People, Big World. But in the quiet hours, she was someone else entirely, a woman in love with a man who wasn't her husband. At first, nobody noticed. Tori grew more protective of her phone, answering late-night messages with a nervous smile. She became distant during family dinners, her thoughts drifting far away. Zach noticed little things, missed calls, unexplained errands, sudden changes in her schedule, but he brushed them off. He trusted her. For nearly a decade, she had been his partner, his best friend, his anchor. Why would he question her now? But children notice what adults ignore. Jackson, the oldest, began asking innocent questions. "Mommy, why do you go out so much now? Why don't you watch movies with us anymore?" Those questions pierced Zach's heart. He sensed something was wrong, but couldn't put his finger on it. Behind closed doors, Tori and David's relationship deepened. Their text messages grew bolder, their meetings more frequent. David was everything Zach wasn't at that moment: available, attentive, and willing to say the words Tori desperately needed to hear. "You deserve better. You deserve peace. I'll take care of you." For Tori, it felt intoxicating. She wasn't just escaping her debt. She was escaping the life that had become too heavy to bear. But secrets never stay hidden forever. One evening, Zach walked past Tori's phone, left unattended on the kitchen counter. A notification lit up the screen. It was from David. The message was short but powerful. "Greater than, I can't wait to see you tomorrow, my love." Zach froze. His stomach twisted. His hands shook. He didn't want to believe what he had just seen. He confronted Tori immediately. "Tori, what is this? Why is David calling you my love?" Tori's face went pale. She stumbled for words, her voice trembling as she tried to explain it away. But Zach could see the truth in her eyes. The woman he had trusted more than anyone in the world was hiding something. From that night on, the atmosphere in the Roloff household shifted. Zach became colder, quieter. Tori became more defensive, more secretive. The children felt it too. The once warm, happy home now echoed with silence and tension. Jackson and Lila whispered to each other at night, sensing their family was falling apart. And little Josiah, too young to understand, simply cried whenever his parents raised their voices. The betrayal was no longer just between Zach and Tori. It was tearing through the entire family. And soon, the world outside their home would learn the truth. The Roloffs had always lived under the watchful eyes of fans. Since Little People, Big World first aired, their lives, both joyful and painful, had been shared with millions. But nothing could have prepared the family for what was about to unfold. It all started with a photograph. One afternoon, a fan spotted Tori at a cafe in Portland. She wasn't alone. Sitting across from her, leaning in close, was David. Their hands brushed. Their smiles were unmistakably intimate. The fan, not realizing the impact, snapped a picture and shared it online with the caption, "Isn't this Tori Roloff? Who's the guy she's with? Doesn't look like Zach." Within hours, the image spread across social media. Fans speculated wildly. Some dismissed it as a misunderstanding, but others began connecting dots. The late-night absences, the tension at home, the whispered rumors. The story exploded. Tori Roloff spotted with mystery man. Trouble in paradise. Roloff marriage on the rocks. Who is David, and why is he always with Tori? Suddenly, what had been a private wound between Zach and Tori became a public scandal. Zach, devastated, tried to shield the children from the noise, but it was impossible. Friends asked questions. Paparazzi camped outside. Inside the Roloff home, the fallout was heartbreaking. Jackson, old enough to understand, confronted his mother. "Mom, why are people saying you love someone else? Don't you love Dad anymore?" Lila, teary-eyed, clung to Zach and whispered, "Daddy, please don't let Mommy go." But the most haunting moment came one night when all three children, their voices breaking, cried out together, "Mom, please don't leave us." Their tears filled the living room, echoing through the house. Yet Tori, torn between guilt and her desperate desire for escape, stood silent. For Zach, this was the final blow. He had fought for his marriage, tried to forgive, tried to believe Tori's explanations. But now the truth was undeniable. The affair was real. The debt was real. And the woman he loved was already halfway gone. On August 30, 2025, Zach and Tori officially filed for divorce. The court documents were cold and factual, but the reality was raw and devastating. After a decade of marriage, the couple who once symbolized love and resilience was broken beyond repair. And just when fans thought the story couldn't get any more shocking, Tori made her next move. Only weeks after the divorce, she stood by David's side, not in secret this time, but openly. He had paid off her crushing $850,000 debt, securing her freedom. And in return, Tori gave him her heart. They announced their marriage in a quiet ceremony, far away from Roloff Farms, leaving Zach and the children to pick up the pieces. On August 30, 2025, the divorce became official. The ink on the papers was barely dry when the emotional weight of the separation hit everyone involved. The Roloff family, once admired for their resilience, now faced a fracture that couldn't be ignored. For Zach, the pain was almost unbearable. He wasn't just losing a wife, he was losing the dream of a united family he had fought to protect for years. Friends close to him said he barely slept, pacing the house late at night, staring at the family photos on the walls. He tried to stay strong for the children, but inside, he felt broken. To Zach, the betrayal wasn't just about love, it was about trust. The woman he had shared his life with, the mother of his children, had been living a double life. And while he could forgive many things, this wound cut too deep. "I'll never understand why she chose debt and betrayal over us," he confided to a friend. For Jackson, Lila, and Joja, the divorce wasn't paperwork. It was their world falling apart. Jackson, wise beyond his years, tried to comfort his younger siblings, telling them, "It'll be okay. We still have Dad." But his brave words couldn't hide his own tears. Lila became withdrawn, often refusing to eat or play, clinging tightly to Zach whenever he tried to leave the room. And little Joja, still too young to fully understand, simply cried whenever he noticed Tori's absence. His tiny voice echoed the heartbreak of the entire family, the children's desperate pleas. "Mom, please don't leave us," still rang in Zach's ears every night. While Zach and the kids struggled, Tori began her new life. Just weeks after the divorce, she married David in a private ceremony. To some, it looked like a love story. David had saved her from financial ruin, promising her security and a fresh start. But to many fans, it felt like betrayal piled on top of betrayal. How could she leave her children behind so soon? How could she walk away from a decade of love and commitment so easily? The wedding photos, leaked online, showed Tori smiling in a white dress, holding David's hand. But for the Roloff children, those pictures were not symbols of love. They were reminders of loss. The rest of the Roloff family reacted with a mix of shock and anger. Amy Roloff, Zach's mother, was devastated. She had always admired Tori and considered her a true daughter-in-law. To see her leave so suddenly, and for another man, broke her heart. Matt Roloff, though often at odds with Zach, expressed sadness too. "Family comes first," he said, "and watching it fall apart like this hurts us all." Even fans who once defended Tori began to turn against her. Social media was filled with comments like, "How could she abandon her kids like that? David may have paid off her debt, but the cost was her family." The Roloff name, once a symbol of unity, was now entangled in scandal. As Tori settled into her new marriage with David, Zach faced the painful reality of being a single father. His once stable world was shattered, but he resolved to rebuild for the sake of his children. The divorce wasn't just the end of a marriage. It was the beginning of two very different futures, one defined by heartbreak and healing, the other by escape and reinvention. But one question remained hanging heavily in the air. Would the children ever forgive their mother for walking away? After the divorce and Tori's sudden marriage to David, the Roloff household changed forever. What was once a home filled with laughter, bedtime stories, and family dinners now echoed with silence, tears, and confusion. At just 8 years old, Jackson suddenly felt like he had to grow up too fast. He saw the sadness in his father's eyes, the confusion in Lila's face, and the constant tears of Lil Joja. Somewhere deep inside, he decided it was his job to keep the family strong. Greater than, "It's okay, Daddy. I'll help you take care of them," Jackson told Zach one night, trying to sound braver than he felt. But the truth was, Jackson missed his mom terribly. He remembered the nights she tucked him in, the way she cheered at his soccer games, the warmth of her hugs. Now he often lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering why she chose David over them. Lila, tender-hearted and sensitive, struggled the most. She didn't understand debts, divorce, or betrayal. All she knew was that Mommy wasn't there anymore. At school, she refused to draw pictures of her family because Mommy doesn't live with us now. She clung to Zach whenever he dropped her off, terrified he might disappear too. Her quiet sadness broke Zach's heart more than anything else. Joja, still a toddler, couldn't put words to his feelings, but his actions spoke louder than words, crying at bedtime, waking up at night calling for Mama, pointing at old photos of Tori and saying Mommy. Every time Zach heard that word, it cut like a knife. He did everything he could, rocking Joja to sleep, singing lullabies, filling the silence with love. But he knew nothing could replace a mother's presence. For Zach, the days blurred together in exhaustion. He woke up early to prepare breakfast, drove the kids to school, managed doctor appointments, and juggled his own work, all while carrying the emotional weight of their broken family. At night, when the kids were finally asleep, he sat alone in the quiet house, staring at the empty space where Tori once sat. He tried to stay strong, but the tears came anyway. "I don't know if I can do this without you," he whispered into the darkness. Yet despite his pain, Zach made a promise, to himself and to his children. He would not let this break them. The most haunting moment came one evening when the three children sat together on the couch, holding hands, their little faces wet with tears. In unison, they cried out again, "Mom, please don't leave us." But Tori wasn't there to hear it. She was with David, starting a new life far away from the family she left behind. The sound of their voices that night would forever stay with Zach, a reminder of both their pain and his responsibility. While Zach and the children struggled to rebuild their broken world, Tori Roloff was stepping into a new one. Her marriage to David, quiet and away from Roloff Farms, marked the beginning of a chapter she believed would bring her peace. But peace did not come so easily. The ceremony was small and private, held at an upscale lodge in Oregon. No Roloff family members were present. No familiar faces from Little People, Big World appeared. Tori, dressed in white, walked down the aisle smiling, holding David's hand tightly. To outsiders, the pictures leaked online looked beautiful, an image of love and a fresh start. But for fans, those images told another story: betrayal. How can she smile like that when her kids are crying for her? David bought her love with money. This isn't romance, it's a transaction. Poor Zach. Poor kids. They didn't deserve this. The internet divided into two camps: those who defended Tori's right to chase happiness, and those who condemned her for abandoning her family. To Tori, David was her rescuer. He had wiped out her $850,000 debt in one sweeping gesture, freeing her from years of financial anxiety. But money can't erase guilt. Even in her moments of joy, Tori felt the weight of what she left behind. When she looked at David across the dinner table, she sometimes saw Zach's disappointed eyes. When she held David's hand, she sometimes heard her children's voices crying out, "Mom, please don't leave us." David, for his part, tried to reassure her. "You made the right choice. You deserve better. You deserve me." He showered her with gifts, vacations, and promises of a fresh start. But love built on secrets and desperation always carries cracks. Unlike her early years as Zach's wife, when fans adored her, Tori now found herself at the center of criticism. Her social media flooded with angry comments. Former supporters unfollowed her, disappointed by her choices. Some even accused David of being an opportunist, of using Tori's vulnerability to secure a relationship. No matter how hard Tori tried to present her new life as happy and glamorous, the shadow of her past lingered. Late at night, when the noise of the world faded, Tori's thoughts always drifted back to her children. She scrolled through old photos of Jackson's soccer games, Lila's drawings, and Joshua's first steps. Tears stained her pillow as she whispered into the darkness, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But apologies spoken to an empty room never reach the people who need to hear them most. By 2026, the Roloff family lived in two entirely different realities. Zach and the children, struggling, grieving, but slowly healing through resilience. Tori and David, living in material comfort, but haunted by guilt and public scrutiny. The question wasn't whether Tori could escape her past. It was how long before it caught up with her. The Roloff family had weathered storms before. Farm disputes, marriages, divorces, and disagreements that played out on national television. But nothing hit them as hard as Tori's sudden departure. Her decision to leave Zach and the children for David wasn't just a private heartbreak. It became a wound that split the Roloff family in two. For Amy Roloff, Zach's mother, the news was unbearable. She had embraced Tori from the very beginning, welcoming her into the Roloff family as a daughter-in-law and later as the mother of her beloved grandchildren. Amy had always admired Tori's devotion to family life. Now watching her leave so abruptly was like losing a daughter and watching her grandchildren lose their mother all at once. "I just don't understand how a mother can walk away," Amy confided to close friends. "Those kids, they deserve so much better." Amy stepped in as much as she could, helping Zach with the children, cooking meals, and offering emotional support. But she knew her presence could never replace what the kids had lost. Matt Roloff, though often entangled in disagreements with Zach over Roloff Farms, felt the shock too. He expressed his disappointment more publicly, telling friends and family that while debts could be repaid and reputations rebuilt, the damage to the children's hearts would last a lifetime. Matt also worried about the family's legacy. With the Roloff name already strained by farm disputes, Tori's scandal added yet another layer of pain to the family's public image. "Greater than family should come before everything else," Matt said, shaking his head. But for Tori, it didn't. Some extended compassion toward Tori, insisting that her struggles with debt and mental health might have pushed her into desperate decisions. Others were less forgiving, believing she had selfishly abandoned her responsibilities as a mother. At family gatherings, her name became a subject no one wanted to mention, an unspoken reminder of the fracture they couldn't heal. Meanwhile, Zach was doing everything possible to restore a sense of normalcy for Jackson, Lila, and Joja. He established routines, family breakfasts, story nights, Saturday soccer games, to reassure the children that though their mother was gone, their home was still safe and filled with love. Amy often joined them, bringing warmth and grandmotherly comfort. Even Matt, despite past conflicts, visited more often to help distract the kids with farm adventures. The Roloff family, fractured as it was, began circling tightly around Zach and the children. But the absence of Tori lingered in every room. For Tori and David, the distance from Roloff Farms grew wider with every passing week. Invitations to family gatherings stopped arriving. Phone calls went unanswered. It wasn't just a marital split, it was a family exile. And while Tori tried to drown her guilt in her new life with David, the reality was unavoidable. She had not just divorced Zach, she had divorced the entire Roloff family. Months had passed since the divorce, and life in the Roloff household slowly began to settle into a fragile routine. But while Zach worked hard to keep his children safe and happy, the scars of abandonment still showed in the smallest moments. Jackson, the eldest, carried the weight of responsibility far beyond his years. He walked his siblings to school, reminded them to brush their teeth, and often whispered, "Don't worry, we still have Dad." His teachers noticed his maturity, but also his silence. In class, he no longer raised his hand as often. At recess, he sometimes sat alone, lost in thought. One day, a teacher gently asked him if everything was all right. Jackson simply replied, "I just want my mom back." Those words echoed the heartbreak of a child trying to be strong, but secretly aching inside. Lila's pain expressed itself differently. She became more withdrawn, speaking less and drawing pictures of her family, with one figure missing, her mother. Her drawings always showed herself holding Zach's hand tightly, as though she feared he might leave too. At bedtime, she often asked Zach the same question over and over, "Daddy, are you going to leave us too?" Each time, Zach hugged her tightly and whispered back, "Never. I'll always be here." But inside, his heart broke knowing no words could fully erase her fear. Joja, still just a toddler, was the most vocal in his innocence. He called out for Mama whenever he woke up in the night, toddling through the house in search of her. Zach would scoop him up, whispering, "Mama's not here, buddy, but Daddy's got you." Sometimes Joja pointed at pictures of Tori on the wall and asked, "When's Mommy coming home?" Zach never had an answer that felt right. For Zach, single fatherhood was both exhausting and empowering. He juggled cooking, school schedules, and bedtime routines while also trying to keep up with filming commitments and family obligations. At night, when the children were asleep, he collapsed into his chair, drained but determined. He knew he couldn't erase their pain, but he could promise them this: they would never feel abandoned again. Despite the pain, small signs of healing began to appear. Jackson started smiling again at soccer practice, scoring his first goal since the divorce. Lila surprised Zach with a drawing that showed their family, just her brothers, and her dad, with a big, bright sun above them. Joja giggled more often, finding joy in small things like chasing bubbles in the backyard. The wounds were still there, but slowly, resilience was blooming. The children were learning that even in the absence of their mother, love could still hold them together. Tori thought her marriage to David would be her escape. She imagined a life free from financial pressure, away from the Roloff drama, and filled with peace. David had promised her stability, security, and love without judgment. But reality proved far more complicated. At first, everything seemed perfect. David took her on trips, spoiled her with gifts, and reminded her constantly that he had saved her life by paying off her $850,000 debt. He introduced her to new friends, people outside the little people, big world circle. He encouraged her to reinvent herself, to leave the past behind. But no matter how hard Tori tried to smile, the past always followed. Every time she posted on social media, the comments flooded in. How can you smile when your kids are crying for you? David may have money, but he'll never be Zach. This is betrayal, not love. Tori turned off comments more than once, but the backlash kept finding her. What was supposed to be her fresh start now felt like living under a microscope of judgment. Late at night, when David slept peacefully beside her, Tori scrolled through old photos of her children. She watched old videos of Jackson's soccer games, Lila's birthday parties, and Joshua's first steps. Her heart ached with guilt. David noticed her tears one evening and grew frustrated. "You need to stop living in the past, Tori. You chose me. You chose this life. Isn't this what you wanted?" Tori wanted to say yes, but deep down, she wasn't sure anymore. David's money had solved her debt, but it also became a weapon. Whenever they argued, he reminded her of what he had done. "I paid off everything for you. Don't forget who made this possible." Those words, instead of comforting her, made Tori feel trapped. Was this really love or just dependence disguised as affection? As months passed, the cracks in their marriage deepened. David grew impatient with Tori's lingering sadness. He wanted her to be grateful, to embrace their life together without hesitation. But Tori couldn't erase the image of her children crying out, "Mom, please don't leave us." The guilt followed her everywhere. In the quiet of the night, in the laughter she forced at parties, in every message she ignored from fans asking about her kids. Her marriage, once her supposed salvation, now felt like a prison built of luxury. By the end of 2025, two parallel stories defined the Roloff world. Zach and the children, hurting, healing, and slowly rebuilding a life of resilience. Tori and David, wealthy, public, but haunted by guilt, criticism, and cracks in their new marriage. The question loomed larger than ever. Had Tori truly chosen freedom, or had she simply traded one kind of burden for another? The divorce had shattered Zach Roloff, leaving him in pieces. But as the weeks turned into months, he began to find something he never expected in the ashes of his broken marriage: strength. For Zach, everything started with his children. He threw himself into fatherhood like never before, waking early to make pancakes, driving them to school, and cheering the loudest at Jackson's soccer games. He learned to braid Lila's hair, something Tori had always done, and he laughed with Joshua while building toy castles in the living room. The kids became his anchor. Every smile, every laugh reminded him why he had to keep going. "I can't control what Tori chose," Zach told a close friend, "but I can control the kind of father I am." Zach had long been defined by two things: his marriage and his connection to Roloff Farms. With both slipping away, one through divorce and the other through disputes with his father, he faced the challenge of redefining who he was. Instead of drowning in bitterness, Zach began exploring new opportunities. He started coaching children's soccer in his community, something that allowed him to bond with Jackson while giving back to others. He also began speaking more openly about fatherhood, resilience, and the reality of heartbreak. Fans admired his honesty, calling him the real heart of the Roloff family. While Tori and David faced harsh criticism online, Zach experienced the opposite. Fans flooded his social media with messages of encouragement. "You're an amazing dad, Zach. Keep going. Your kids are so lucky to have you. You're stronger than you think." The more Zach shared glimpses of his new life with the children, the more fans rallied behind him. He wasn't just surviving, he was inspiring. Amy Roloff became his biggest supporter, spending more time at his house, helping with the kids, and offering him the emotional encouragement he needed. Even Matt, despite their history of conflict, respected Zach's resilience. For once, farm disputes seemed less important compared to the unity needed to help Zach and the children heal. Slowly, Zach began to rediscover himself. The man who once felt broken was now showing signs of renewal. He wasn't just the victim of betrayal. He was a father, a mentor, and a man rebuilding a future from the ground up. And in his children's eyes, he wasn't just dad. He was their hero. By early 2026, Zach was still healing, But he was no longer defined by heartbreak. He was defined by his strength. His children, though scarred by the past, were learning resilience through his example. And while Tori struggled with guilt in her new marriage, Zach's story became one of quiet triumph. He had lost a wife, but he had found himself. What began as an escape quickly turned into another prison. For Tori, her marriage to David was supposed to be freedom, a fresh start after the pain of debt, the strain of Roloff farm drama, and the heartbreak of a crumbling marriage. But by 2026, that illusion was fading fast. David had paid off Tori's $850,000 debt, and at first she felt gratitude, even relief. But gratitude alone is not love. Whenever disagreements arose, David reminded her of his sacrifice. "Don't forget, I gave you a new life. I saved you from ruin." To him, it was leverage. To her, it was a chain. The debt may have disappeared, but in its place grew a new imbalance, one that left Tori feeling indebted not just financially, but emotionally. David's affection, once comforting, became controlling. He questioned her constantly. "Why are you looking at old photos of Zach and the kids? Why do you still follow the Roloff family online? Are you really happy here with me?" His jealousy grew stronger each time he noticed her drifting thoughts. Tori, torn between guilt for leaving her family and the pressure to prove her loyalty to David, began to feel suffocated. Public backlash only made things worse. Every time the couple appeared in public, whispers followed. "That's the man who bought her love. Poor Zach. Poor kids. She looks happy on the outside, but her eyes tell the truth." David brushed off the criticism, but Tori couldn't. The guilt gnawed at her every time someone mentioned her children. At night, she scrolled through fan comments, torn between anger and sorrow. Arguments became frequent. David accused her of still being emotionally tied to Zach. Tori accused him of treating her like a possession instead of a partner. One night, after a particularly heated fight, Tori broke down in tears. "I thought this would make me happy, but why does it hurt even more?" David's response was cold. "Because you don't know what you want, Tori. I gave you everything. Isn't that enough?" But it wasn't enough. What haunted Tori most was not David's jealousy or the world's criticism. It was the memory of her children's voices crying out, "Mom, please don't leave us." Those words echoed in her mind every single day. No matter how far she ran, no matter how tightly she held onto David's hand, she couldn't silence them. For the first time, Tori began to question her choices. Had she truly found love with David? Or had she traded one pain for another? Her heart, once desperate for rescue, now longed for something she thought she had lost forever: peace, forgiveness, and the family she had left behind. By mid-2026, the paths of Zach and Tori Roloff couldn't have been more different. One road was filled with guilt, doubt, and regret. The other was slowly transforming into healing, strength, and renewal. Tori's marriage to David was no longer the fairy tale she thought it would be. The gifts, the luxury, the security, all of it felt empty compared to what she had lost. She began to see the truth. Money had covered her debt, but it could never fill the hole left by her children's absence. Every time she scrolled through old photos of Jackson's smile, Lila's drawings, and Josiah's little hands reaching for her, tears streamed down her face. At times, she whispered into the night, "What have I done? Was it worth it?" David, tired of her lingering sadness, grew distant. Their arguments became colder, their silences longer. The man who once seemed like her savior now felt like her captor. Meanwhile, in the Roloff household, healing was slowly taking root. Jackson had grown into a natural leader, protective of his siblings but finally smiling again on the soccer field. Lila found joy in art, often painting pictures of herself with Zach, Jackson, and Josiah surrounded by sunshine. Josiah, though still young, clung happily to his father, secure in the love that remained. Zach had transformed his heartbreak into determination. He wasn't just surviving as a single parent, he was thriving. He leaned on Amy and his siblings for support, and he created a world where his kids knew they were loved, no matter what. "We've been through the storm," Zach told a friend, "but now we're finding our light again." The Roloff family rallied around Zach and the kids like never before. Amy spent weekends baking with them. Matt invited them to the farm for fun adventures. Even siblings who lived farther away made more visits, ensuring the children always felt surrounded by love. Fans noticed the difference too. Zach's social media was filled with photos of genuine smiles, moments of laughter, and a father who had become both mother and dad to his kids. For many, Zach became the true symbol of resilience, a man who rose from betrayal to become a hero for his children. While Zach and the children built a stronger bond than ever before, Tori's world with David continued to fracture. She had gained money but lost love. She had chosen escape but found emptiness. And as she lay awake at night, haunted by the sound of her children crying, she began to realize something devastating. She had walked away from the only people who truly loved her unconditionally. Time moved forward. But for Tori Roloff, every day felt heavier than the last. The weight of her choices pressed down on her, while Zach and the children were slowly learning to live without her. Tori sat alone one evening, scrolling through her phone. She paused on a recent photo Zach had shared. Jackson scoring a goal in soccer, Lila holding up a painting, Joja laughing in Zach's arms. They were smiling. They were healing. They were living a life without her. Tori burst into tears. For months, she had tried to convince herself that leaving was the right choice, that David had saved her from financial ruin and given her a new beginning. But what kind of beginning was it, if it came at the cost of her children's love? Her marriage to David, once exciting, now felt suffocating. The arguments, the jealousy, the constant reminder that she was indebted to him, it all became too much. For the first time, Tori admitted to herself, "I made a mistake. I left the wrong life behind." Meanwhile, Zach was walking a very different path. He still carried scars of heartbreak, but he refused to let them define him. He poured his love into his children, and slowly they began to blossom again. Jackson proudly told his teacher that his dad was his best friend. Lila painted a family portrait that showed herself, her brothers, and her dad with a big heart around them. Joja, barely old enough to understand, clung to Zach with the innocent certainty that dad would always be there. Zach, too, found new purpose. He began speaking openly about single fatherhood, sharing his journey with fans who praised his strength. He became a voice for resilience, showing others that heartbreak didn't have to mean the end of happiness. The wider Roloff family wrapped themselves around Zach and the kids. Amy became a daily presence, helping with meals and offering a grandmother's love. Matt, despite past farm conflicts, stepped in more often, creating memories with his grandchildren. Even Zach's siblings grew closer, ensuring the children were never without a sense of family. The Roloffs, once divided by disputes, found unity in protecting Zach and the kids. As Zach and the children flourished, Tori's marriage to David spiraled further. The contrast was undeniable. Zach had lost a wife, but gained a stronger bond with his children. Tori had gained financial freedom, but lost her peace of mind. The guilt, the regret, and the haunting memory of her children's voices. "Mom, please don't leave us," echoed louder than ever in her heart. Tori was reaching a breaking point. She had to choose whether to keep pretending her new life was enough, or face the painful truth. Her heart still belonged to the family she had abandoned. By late 2026, the cracks in Tori's new marriage were undeniable. Her relationship with David, once built on promises and financial rescue, now felt like a gilded cage. The more David reminded her of what he had done for her, the more she realized what she had truly lost. Every night, Tori laid awake replaying the same memory, the last words she heard from her children together. "Mom, please don't leave us." No matter how hard she tried to silence it, the echo returned, louder each time. She scrolled through photos of Zach and the kids, noticing how much they had grown in just 1 year. Jackson's smile seemed stronger, Lila's eyes more confident, Joja more playful. They were thriving, but without her. The thought tore her apart. David noticed her distance and grew increasingly frustrated. "You're living in the past again, Tori," he snapped one evening. "I gave you everything. Why can't you just be happy?" But the truth was clear. David had given her money, not peace. He had offered her escape, not healing. Tori realized her life with him was built on a deal, not on love. And while she sat in a beautiful house with no debt hanging over her, she felt emptier than ever. Meanwhile, Zach and the children had built a new rhythm. Jackson was thriving in soccer, proudly telling his friends that Dad never misses a game. Lila grew more confident, smiling again as she held her drawings up for Zach to pin on the fridge. Josha, now walking and talking more, clung to Zach with pure joy. The children still missed their mother, but slowly, they were learning life without her. And in their hearts, Zach had become not just Dad, but their anchor, their constant, their everything. The contrast couldn't be sharper. Zach and the children were healing, united by love and resilience. Tori was unraveling, consumed by guilt and regret, trapped in a marriage that no longer felt right. Everywhere she looked, she saw the consequences of her choices. The smiles she missed. The milestones she wasn't there for. The love she had walked away from. One evening, staring at a photo of Jackson holding his siblings' hands at a school event, Tori whispered to herself, "I left the wrong life behind. I left my heart behind." For the first time, she allowed herself to say it out loud. She regretted leaving Zach and the kids. But a darker question lingered in her mind. Heavier than any debt she had ever carried, was it too late to go back? By early 2027, Tori's life with David had grown darker, not brighter. The money, the comfort, the supposed stability, none of it eased the ache in her heart. The image of her children crying for her still haunted every quiet moment. Meanwhile, Zach and the kids were writing a new chapter of resilience. Tori found herself staring at her phone for hours, her finger hovering over Zach's number. She wanted to call, to hear her children's voices, to say she was sorry. But fear always stopped her. Would they even want to hear from her? Would Zach answer? Would her kids forgive her, or would they turn away? David noticed her drifting thoughts and grew furious. "You can't keep obsessing over them," he warned. "You chose me. You chose this life. Stop living in the past." But Tori knew the truth. Her children weren't the past. They were her heart, her future, the part of her she could never replace. On the other side, Zach and the children were finding their rhythm. Jackson had grown into a leader, helping his younger siblings and proudly telling Zach, "We're okay because we have you, Dad." Lila found her voice again, smiling more often and talking about dreams of being an artist. Josha, now full of energy, followed Zach everywhere, his laughter filling the house. Zach, though still scarred, was no longer broken. He was proud of the life he had built with his kids, even without Tori. Amy, ever the supportive mother, often reminded Zach, "You're doing better than you think. The kids are strong because you're strong." She also admitted privately that if Tori ever came back, forgiveness wouldn't be easy. Trust once shattered is hard to rebuild. Tori finally reached a breaking point one night. Sitting alone, her heart heavy, she whispered, "I can't keep living like this. I need to see them. I need to try." For the first time, she began to plan how to approach Zach, how to face her children, how to ask for forgiveness she wasn't sure she deserved. But the question lingered in her mind. Would they even let her back in? The Roloff world stood on the edge of two possible futures. One, where Tori remained in her life with David, bound by guilt and regret forever. The other, where she tried to face the family she had left behind, risking rejection but hoping for redemption. And while Zach and the children found strength in their healing, Tori stood at the crossroads of her life, torn between the choice she made and the love she had lost. By spring of 2027, the weight of regret had become unbearable for Tori. Every day felt like a shadow of the life she once had, and the voice of her children crying out, "Mom, please don't leave us," never left her mind. She decided it was time to act. One evening, after another bitter argument with David, Tori finally packed a small bag and drove away. She didn't tell David where she was going. She only knew one thing. She had to see her children. Her hands shook as she gripped the steering wheel. The closer she got to Zach's house, the heavier her heart pounded. She hadn't seen the kids in months. What if they hated her? What if Zach shut the door in her face? But she had to try. When she arrived at Zach's home, she stood frozen on the porch. The lights inside glowed warm, the sound of laughter spilling out through the windows. She could hear Jackson's excited voice, Lila's giggles, and Josiah's little footsteps. For a moment, she almost turned back. They were happy. Did she have the right to interrupt that? But then, with trembling hands, she knocked. Zach opened the door, and the moment their eyes met, silence fell. Zach's face hardened, his protective instincts immediately rising. "What are you doing here, Tori?" His voice was calm but cold, heavy with the weight of betrayal. Tori's eyes filled with tears. I just want to see them. Please." Zach hesitated. The pain of the past year rushed back, the affair, the lies, the divorce. Part of him wanted to slam the door shut. But part of him remembered that no matter what had happened, this woman was still the mother of his children. Hearing voices at the door, Jackson peeked out. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Mom?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Behind him, Lila appeared, clutching her stuffed toy, and Josiah toddled forward, confused but curious. The children froze, torn between love and hurt. For months, they had begged for her return, but now that she stood there, they didn't know what to do. Lila's lip quivered as she whispered, "Are you really here, Mommy? Or are you leaving again?" The words pierced Tori's heart like a knife. Zach stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance. His children's eyes pleaded with him, but his heart screamed caution. He looked at Tori and asked bluntly, "Why now? Why after everything? What do you want from us?" Tori's tears streamed as she whispered back, "I want them. I want to make it right. I don't care what it takes. I just want my kids back." The silence that followed was heavy with uncertainty. Zach finally stepped aside just enough for the children to hug their mother. Jackson clung tightly. Lila cried into her shoulder, and Josiah simply repeated, "Mama, Mama." But Zach's eyes never softened. Forgiveness was far from certain. Trust was still broken. For Tori, it was only the first step on a long, uncertain road, one that could lead to healing, or to heartbreak all over again. Tori's unexpected return reopened wounds that Zach and the children had worked so hard to heal. For the first time in months, the family was together under one roof, but the air was thick with tension. Zach stayed guarded. He let the children hug their mother, but his eyes never softened. Every memory of betrayal, every lie, every late-night message with David flashed through his mind. "They're not toys you can pick up and put down whenever you feel like it," he told Tori sharply. "They cried for you every night. Do you even know what you put them through?" Tori nodded through her tears. "I know, and I hate myself for it. But I'm here now. Please, let me try." The kids clung to Tori like they never wanted to let go. Jackson whispered, "Don't leave again, Mom." Lila asked, "Can you stay with us forever this time?" And little Josiah, with innocent eyes, simply said, "Mama home." Their hope was pure, their love unconditional, but Zach knew the danger of letting them get hurt again. Over the following weeks, Tori visited the children, trying to rebuild their trust. She cooked them dinners, read bedtime stories, and held them close. For the kids, it felt like a dream. But for Zach, it was a test. He watched carefully, questioning if this was true repentance or just another chapter of regret that could end in more heartbreak. Deep down, Zach knew he had already built a strong life without her. He and the kids had grown resilient. They were healing. They didn't need Tori anymore, but they wanted her. And that made the choice harder than ever. As 2027 unfolded, the Roloff family stood at a crossroads. If Tori could prove her love was real and lasting, perhaps forgiveness could slowly take root. The children's hearts longed for it. If she failed again, the door would close forever, and Zach would protect the kids from ever being hurt again. For now, Zach chose patience. He didn't give her full forgiveness, but he allowed her the chance to show her change. "You left us once," Zach told her firmly. "If you ever leave again, you'll lose us forever." Tori nodded, tears streaming, knowing this was her final chance. And so the Roloff story continues, not with a neat ending, but with a question that only time can answer. Will Tori truly rebuild her place in her children's lives? Or has the damage already gone too far? Can Zach ever trust her again? Or will he always keep her at a distance? And most importantly, should forgiveness be given? Or has this family already found their strength without her? What do you think? Should Zach give Tori another chance, or should he close the door for good? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind Little People, Big World. More update. LPBW, Tori Roloff starts new job after leaving show. Tori Roloff breaks silence about her mental struggles. And Tori and Zach Roloff open up about sad reality for their kids. I will explain everything. After leaving the popular TLC reality show Little People, Big World, star Tori Roloff began a new career. They are responsible for providing for their 3 children, who were born to her and Zach Roloff. What has the LPBW alum been doing recently? If you want to know more about her new job, you should read on. As the wife and mother of Zach Roloff's 3 children, Tori Roloff is well known to fans. At the same time that they are raising Joja, Lila, and Jackson, they are also hosting a podcast that LPBW fans enjoy. Tori and Zach reveal all in their candid responses to intimate questions. While filming the popular TLC reality show, Tori worked as a kindergarten teacher and a farmhand on the side. She decided to give her whole focus to her children and quit her job in 2017. She has begun a new career in Zach, and she have finished Little People, Big World. The preschool instructor is now 34 years old and works at a Christian school. She lives only down the road from her house, so getting there isn't a huge hassle. In order to officially welcome Tori and introduce her to the community, the school took to social media to send out a message. Along with Tori's likes, they also shared a professional photo of her. Plus, it was entertaining because Tori revealed her interests and hobbies outside of work. Being a teacher will get her a cheaper tuition fee, but it's not obvious if this is her children's school. It is not surprising that the LPBW star returned to teaching, as it has always been her love. Having a reality star instruct their children, though, must be an intriguing prospect for the parents. Upon seeing this announcement, the followers were overjoyed. In addition, some were celebrating the excellent news because they had first-hand experience with her teaching. They were impressed with her professionalism and happy for her that she could go back to her roots. The supporters of Tori Roloff's latest venture, Little People, Big World, were overjoyed. They were very supportive and encouraging because they understood she was doing what she was meant to do. Yay. My son's kindergarten teacher, Tori, was fantastic. Tori would be an incredible addition to my preschool faculty. Well done, Tori, on stepping into your new role. Lovely, too, was the widespread belief that she would adore her new school and the community it offered. This appears to be the ideal landing point for the former LPBW celebrity who has launched herself. How do you feel about Tori Roloff's return to the classroom? Will you be surprised if she stays for a while? Post a comment telling us what you think. LPBW, Tori Roloff breaks silence about her mental struggles. Regardless of the opinions of Little People, Big World followers on Tori Roloff, Zach Roloff, and their family activities, it must be denied that Tori has consistently been transparent with her viewers regarding the things she handles. Word on the street is that the mother of 3 has finally spoken out about the challenges she's been having with her mental health. Now, what was her point? Putting oneself out there on reality TV, as everyone knows, invites quick scrutiny from complete strangers. It has been this way for the Roloff family ever since Zach, Tori, and the rest of them filmed Little People Big World on TLC. Even while the network made a tidy sum from the public's exposure, the downside is that being on television makes one vulnerable to trolls and other nasty comments. Zach and Tori continued to put themselves out there with their podcast, even after leaving the family show after season 25, which brought about the program's cancellation, which invited further criticism from fans and others. In contrast to the majority of Instagram users, Tori Roloff recently became real with her massive following, showing no mercy in her portrayal of her life. As proof that summer has arrived, Tori Roloff posted photos of her small children basking in the sun and playing in the sand. Tori confronted the positive summer sentiments head-on by discussing her struggles with mental health. All right, everyone, let's get down to brass tacks right now. Tori Roloff informed her massive fan base. Even though summer has just been going for 3 weeks, it has certainly not been easy. Sometimes it's good to share the realness on Instagram, even though we only share the good stuff. Keeping cool and practicing patience has been so challenging for me recently, Tori added. While it's great to have all 3 of our children home for the summer, we've learned the hard way that they require quite different kinds of care. I'm so tired. I know I'm only 34, but I've also been struggling with balancing my hormone levels, and I know that has contributed to my mood, expressed Tori. Sometimes I don't feel good about how I dealt with our children's problems. I wish I had handled them differently. As a mother, I am making an effort to prioritize my health and get back on track. A large number of encouraging notes were sent by Little People Big World followers to the mother of 3 this time around. Although Tori Roloff expresses gratitude for her life, she still experiences moments of sadness, something a lot of her fans can identify to. Tori, you and Zach are rocking the parenting game, according to one commenter. Please be gentle and forgiving with yourself. The most amazing mother in the industry, another commenter continued. Be strong and keep your head held high, my darling. The joyous yet exhausting journey of parenthood is no laughing matter. Tori made several points. What are your thoughts on them? Specify in the space provided. LPBW Tori and Zach Roloff open up about sad reality for their kids. The role of Little People Big World brought Tori and Zach Roloff to the attention of the public. As the years went by, viewers also witnessed the family's growth, with 3 children born to them, each with a unique form of dwarfism. Some time ago, Zach and Tori discussed the challenges of parenthood. On Little People Big World, the Roloffs were the center of attention. The show depicts Zach, his parents Matt and Amy, and Zach himself as all having a type of dwarfism. Viewers watched the Roloff children start families as the show progressed. Zach tied the knot with Tori Patton on the ancestral farm in 2015. Together, the couple's offspring number 3. There was a first in 2017 with the birth of their son, Jackson Kyle. The year 2019 saw the birth of the second, Lila Ray. They welcomed their 3rd child, Joja Luke, into the world in 2022. Their father also has a kind of dwarfism, so do all 3 of their children. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.